Welcome back to the Daily Dose. I'm your host, Jeff Hansen. As always, the show's brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com and by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Thank you to those of you who are already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment. All of those little interactions help us a ton as we try to grow our new platform here on YouTube. So thank you for your support, and thank you for your continued support in the future. I was driving into work the other day. I have a Jeep. My top was off. The doors were off. The air was flowing. The sun was shining. My life was great until a Utah highway patrolman decided to step in and make it a little bit less great. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything illegal. I was confused why I was being pulled over. And that's when it was explained to me that because there was a lift on my Jeep and my mud flaps had not been extended, my rear axles were showing. So the officer then kindly explained to me that my mud flaps were 2 inches too short. I thought that would be the end and he would just give me a quick heads up, but no, he went ahead and booked it. I got a fix-it ticket. And after an emasculating comment about him being the expert of things being too short, I took my ticket and away I went with the rest of my day. I was annoyed, and now I have mud flaps on the back of my Jeep. But officer, whatever his name was, gave me some ideas of what we need to do on the Daily Dose today. What we're going to do on the Daily Dose today, we're going to give some fix-it tickets for BYU. We're looking back at what was going on in the past and things that we need to see addressed from BYU this season before BYU takes the field against Kansas in their first Big 12 conference game. There's three fix-it tickets that we need to issue. The first one goes to the entire defense. BYU gave up. They started so slow. They just started so slow on defense. They gave up opening scores on opening drives in 8 of 13 games last year. Field goals or touchdowns. We're not deciphering between the two, but in 8 of 13 games, BYU gave up a score on the defense's first drive. They could not start fast enough. It felt as if there was no game plan coming into the game, and it wasn't until the first drive when the coaching staff saw what the opponent was trying to do that then a game plan was implemented and play calls were changed. It was frustrating. It put the offense in a hole 8 out of 13 weeks. They can't do that in the Big 12 conference this year. The defense has got to start fast. The game plan has got to be sound. They can adjust that game plan, obviously, but Jay Hill and his staff have to have his defense ready to go. You cannot give an opening drive score 8 out of 13 games and expect to have a positive record at the end of your first season as a Power 5 conference member. The defense has to play better, and they have to play better right away. So, first 3 games of the season, BYU plays a couple of lower-level schools, and then they play Arkansas on the road. If they give up opening scores on more than 2 games, I think on more than 1 game, I think that fix-it ticket is still outstanding. BYU's got to be able to start faster. Fix-it ticket number 2, Kedon Slovis. As accurate as he is as a quarterback, the one thing that has held him back over the last couple of years is his decision-making. He's a very accurate passer. The NFL scouts agree with that. We saw from the Senior Bowl, the head scout of the Senior Bowl already talking about how NFL scouts rave about Kedon Slovis's accuracy. He's a very, very accurate quarterback, but he makes some poor decisions, and that's led to 17 interceptions over the last 2 seasons of play for Slovis. Obviously, that's not at BYU. That's 1 year at USC. That's 1 year at Pitt. But the one thing that Aaron Roderick's offensive scheme can't do is turn the ball over. Slovis can be accurate. He can get the ball where it needs to go. He's got to ensure that his decision-making is accurate as well, and he's not forcing things into windows that are not there. I don't think that he's going to be as accurate as Zach Wilson or as Jaron Hall, where BYU saw just a tremendous historical success protecting the ball. I don't think that's reasonable to expect. But Slovis can't have more than just a handful of interceptions this year. I mean, we're talking 8, 9 interceptions on the year. If he starts to turn the ball over more than that, BYU will be in trouble. So let's call it in those first 3 games, he cannot have more than 2 total interceptions, or this fix-it ticket is still outstanding. He's got to be better. He's got to make better decisions. He has the accuracy and the skills. He's got to make better decisions. And then our final fix-it ticket goes to the interior of the defensive line. Well, we turn to our friends over at Football Outsiders. They do one of my favorite stats called stuff rate that looks at how many opposing running plays are stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. BYU had just 12.2% of running plays that were stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. That was 126th in the country. What can we read into that? Poor tackling from the interior of the defensive line, interior defensive linemen getting pushed around and bullied by opposing offensive lines, and some awful gap integrity from linebackers who were coming up to help in the run game. It was bad all the way around. That has to get better. No matter what Jay Hill wants to do in the secondary, no matter how aggressive he gets with his blitz schemes, if he can't stop the run, his defense will not work, and that starts with the interior of the defensive line. I don't know what the metric should be. I don't know how we gauge success. They were so bad last year that I think we'll be able to see it. It's one of those things that we'll be able to visibly feel and see that, hey, this defensive line is getting a push and they look better. And that's really how we're going to have to gauge it. So for BYU's first 3 games of the season, particularly against Arkansas in that third game, we've got to see more push from the interior of the defensive line, or it could be a really long Big 12 season for BYU. Thank you so much for your support of the show. If you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, give them hell.